Well, last week I was asking you about telling the truth.
Yes.
So I would like for you to continue telling the truth.
I will
That'd be good.
strive to do that.
No, we got to
ask the right questions.
I will. I'm going to ask very specific, detailed questions.
That's right. Pin me down.
Last week we talked about why it's important to tell the truth. We were looking at Ephesians chapter 4, how we're to speak the truth. And a couple of different times it says, we're to speak the truth. Let each one speak the truth to his neighbor. You walked us through not only why it's important to tell the truth, but also you kind of helped us think practically what that looks like and how we have to consider the consequences of our words and the impact that they'll have on people. And we're not meant to go around saying everything that we think and everything that we observe to be true. We have to consider what's the purpose of the speech, what's the motivation, is it necessary, which was very helpful. So now we have to get to the manner in which we speak, which Paul also addresses when he says that we're to speak the truth in love. And so to kind of round out this two-parter on speaking the truth in love.
Okay.
Why is it important to speak the truth in love? What are some ways in which we fail to do this? And then probably maybe the most important thing is how can we know that we have the right motivation, that we are speaking in the right manner? How can we make sure that we're speaking the truth in love? That can be a hard thing to assess. Yeah. So take it away.
Well, there are obviously, as we talked about last time, speaking the truth is consistent with God and his nature, character, the character of Christ, that we're members of one another. And so the truth is very important that we communicate the truth. But there is a reality that how you say something is as important as what you say. So you can say something in one way and have it have an impact. You can say another thing in another way and have it have an impact. Like if let's say you do something particularly heinous or evil or sinful, and I come to you and I say, George, I'm sorry that you did that. This is reprehensible and we need to address it, right? Is different than saying, George, I can't believe you've done this. This is reprehensible. We've got to do something. That's a completely different communication. Yeah. What is communicated is different. Right. Now, the first one, I would assume, love is communicated. Concern, compassion, shepherding is communicated so that the person feels safe in hearing what it is that you're saying. The other person shuts down, covers, feels like they need to gain cover, conceal and hide.
In the second instance, you mean, because it was communicated as anger, disappointment.
Right. Harshness and so on. And even hard things do not need to be said harshly. And I battle this as a father because, as any parent knows, there are few that have the ability to get under your skin as quickly as children who are obstinate and defiant and rude, inconsiderate, selfish. I mean, it's like, and I worked hard in the communication with my children. And it was interesting. I had one of my children come to me and later after they had children, they said, Daddy, I am so thankful that you always spoke to us in a tone that was appropriate and you were never harsh with us. And I looked over at Pat.
Did you speak the truth in that moment?
I said, well, I don't know. Did you have a different father than I remember you having? Because I wrestled with that. I really wrestled. And there were times when Pat would say, Rick, you were so harsh with them. And I would just have a heartbreak and I'm going, that's horrible. Totally. I try not to do that. And, it's like one time I said to my wife, I was not harsh. And she goes, you were harsh. I said, I can show you harsh. If you want to see harsh, I can show it to you. It wasn't that, right? but there's a need to be careful because you don't have to say hard things harshly. You can say things that are hard to say and hard to hear in a way that will enable them to receive it as edifying and not as just insulting
Yeah.
or whatever.
Yeah, that is a really helpful principle, because I mean, you can already think through the ways in which just that principle would help so many marriages, so many parents, if they could just exercise self-control in the way they say things. I mean, it would have dramatic impacts on relationships.
Yeah, and that, 1 Corinthians 13 starts out when it's talking about love.
Yeah.
And it starts out talking about the tongue and showing love with the tongue. Read verse 1.
If I speak in the tongues of men and of angels, but have not love, I am a noisy gong or a clanging cymbal.
So you can say the right thing,
Yeah.
but you're like a noisy gong or a clanging cymbal.
Yeah.
And, those wear on you if they just are perpetual.
Right.
And so there's that truth that love acts as a seasoning for your communication. And that's what scriptures say elsewhere. It says, let it be seasoned with salt, and that which preserves and that which protects and heals. And love is that seasoning of your communication that enables you to communicate well and productively and with edification and healing and a balm and sometimes with just the clarification for a person who may not understand the nature of their offense, but the way you communicate it to them with compassion enables them to receive it. And the lack of love and the lack of tenderness really becomes a destructive influence. Harshness is a destructive thing. Look at Proverbs chapter 12 and verse 18.
Proverbs 12:18. There is one whose rash words are like sword thrusts, but the tongue of the wise brings healing.
So, you can use your tongue in such a way that it stabs. Yeah. There's that old lie that children told themselves on the playground: sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me.
Yeah, we all sang that to ourselves as we were crying in our beds.
Right.
But mean words that someone said.
That's the reason you were crying, was a mean word.
Right.
So they did hurt you.
Yeah.
Some people would much rather be hit across the back with a stick or receive a bruise from a stone than to hear the harsh words and names that are brought that hurt so bad.
Yeah.
And I suppose, the tone then is a massive element to communication. How you say something, again, is as important as what you say. And that's why we are charged to speak the truth in love.
Yeah.
Right? That's the idea that as we disclose the truth to someone, that we need to think through how we are speaking and what it is that we're saying, but how we are saying it is another thing. I think a couple tests of whether your words are appropriate in this way is who are you trying to satisfy by what you're saying? Yourself? And to get this off your chest, or the person hearing it and what's best for them?
Yeah.
Preferring one another, as the scripture says. And very often people that are harsh with other people are very sensitive if you're harsh with them, which demonstrates that in itself, it is a violation of what is classically called the golden rule, right? Well, do unto others as you would have them do unto you.
Right.
If you don't want to be spoken to that way, and I don't know anyone who does want to be spoken to harshly, brutally, like thrusts of a sword.
Right.
I don't know who wants to be spoken to that way. I mean, I want people to be frank and open with me, but like I said to my children when they were disrespectful, when they're in my home, I said, you're free to tell me anything. You can tell me you disagree with me. You can tell me you think I'm wrong. You can tell me that my idea is, in your opinion, not worth much. You're free to say anything you want to say, but the way you say it needs to be respectful. And we had good conversations when my children disagreed with me and they told me they think I was wrong, and I would say, okay. Let's talk about it more and whatever. And sometimes I could dissuade them and they would come around, and other times they say, no, I don't agree. And I said, well, you don't have to agree, but you do have to obey. And so when you're running your own home, you can do things the way you wish, and when you have your own children, you can do things the way you wish. But I'm accountable to the Lord for how I'm exercising my leadership, and so we're going to do it this way. And do you understand that? And they would say yes. And so we would talk through things, but the minute they got disrespectful, I say, whoa,
Yeah.
hang on. You need to speak to me properly. So speak to me properly, and we can continue in our conversation. But we don't need to get disrespectful toward each other. And I strive to treat them in the same way that I would desire
Sure.
for them to treat me, which means that I'm not railing against them and calling them, names like that's stupid or what a dumb thought or what would ever cause you to think that way. Or I didn't go there. I tried very hard to set an example of how they should be speaking to me back, right? And I think that's an important thing. I think we ought to avoid any kind of slanderous assertions at any cost. Look at Proverbs 16:28, and there's that text that helps us there.
Yeah, 16:28, a dishonest man spreads strife, and a whisperer separates close friends.
So we don't want to say things about people that hurt,
Yeah.
even if it's true. You don't want to gossip about people
Right.
or slander people. You don't want to email people or text people, because that then goes into, I think, into a whole nother sin called libel, or libel.
Libel, yeah.
Libel, not libel. Libel.
You might be liable for libel, but
That's true.
They are different.
And so that's, saying things about someone in print or text or whatever. So electronic, digital, or hard copy. So you don't want to do that. You don't want to get involved in that. You want to be very careful about that. And another thing you want to avoid in terms of speaking the truth is flattery. You can compliment someone, but you shouldn't flatter them, right? In Proverbs 29, verse 5, that is addressed.
29 verse 5, a man who flatters his neighbor spreads a net for his feet.
So flattery basically is trying to cause someone to feel good about something associated with them, whether it's the way they look or the way they worked or their flower garden or whatever, to advance your own cause or agenda.
Right.
You're wanting to.
You're trying to curry favor.
It's a manipulation. It's a form of manipulation.
Yeah.
Flattery is.
Yeah.
And flattery is usually confused with complimenting, but it is not the same. To compliment someone is usually to call attention to something that is positive about them. They are the beneficiary of God's grace in having or doing. Like if someone comes and says, that was a good sermon.
Yeah.
That might just be flattery. I don't know. But if someone comes and says to me, God used his word in my life today in powerful ways, I am so convicted and I'm grateful. Thank you. I think that's compliment.
Right.
That's not flattery.
Right.
Because they're not saying you did something right. Mm-hmm. They're saying the word of God affected them. Right. And that's a great thing.
And they're acknowledging that he used you in a significant role in that work.
Sure.
Yeah.
And not everybody comes up and says, "Hey, that was a good sermon," is flattering. I'm not trying to indict everybody and say, last week
you better
I
be
told
careful,
them
otherwise you might never hear that again if too many people listen to this video.
Actually, we shouldn't need that, right? So we just speak to the audience of one, and Spirit of God affirms us in that, and He never flatters us.
That's true.
So
He doesn't need a whole lot from us, so yeah.
And I think the concern that we have, basically has to go back to our motive. Mm-hmm. Why are we saying what we're saying?
Yeah.
Why are we doing that? why are we saying this? Why are we saying that? And again, I think, look at Matthew 12:34.
You brood of vipers, how can you speak good when you are evil? For out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks.
So there's a description there. The terminologies that are used are actually an overflowing. So out of a heart overflows what's there in the way you talk. And so you have to ask yourself the question, why am I saying what I'm saying? Because out of, it might be gratitude, it might be worship of the Lord, it might be good things, but also out of the heart comes all kinds of things.
Yeah.
It's not what enters into the man that defiles him, it's what comes out of the man that defiles him. And, one of the things that we have to ask is am I saying this in order to promote the glory of God and the significance of the role that he plays in the situation, in your life, in my life, and how I'm being maybe convicted or directed by the Lord? But why am I saying what I'm saying? Or am I saying what I'm saying for my own benefit? Because I'll feel better. If I just give him a piece of my mind, I'll feel better. Well, time out. Maybe you should consider feeling better by confessing sin and going to the Lord and praying about it and searching his word and allowing some sanctification to happen before you go and you try to speak to someone with whom you're upset or critical. You have to ask yourself, why am I saying what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I've referenced this before, and I've given people an out who have come to me out of brutality and harshness. And, I've had that happen. And, I said in the exercise that we did the other night with the elders and deacons that I am over the top optimistic and positive, right? So somebody comes to me and they're complaining and they're just really ripping me apart and criticizing me and imputing motives to me that really aren't there, and they're just really railing. And I sit there and through my mind goes, make sure this person feels loved before they leave. Make sure this person feels loved before they leave. And sometimes I have to really talk myself into that, because in my flesh, I'd rather just
fight back,
give them a piece of my mind.
Yeah, sure. Give them some truth.
And, there are times when I have said, I could say this, I could say that, and I could lash them. They're talking about thrusts of a sword.
Yeah,
I could impale them beyond repair. And I've had those thoughts as I'm listening to what they're saying, and I keep rehearsing. Make sure they feel loved before they leave. Make sure they feel loved. So I'll say something like, I cannot tell you how much it means to me for you to come to me and express these things, because I know you desire that I be everything I ought to be.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's like a cup of cold water in the face of a red-faced critic when they go, oh, I actually had one person say, that's not why I came at all. I'm not here because I want you to be everything. I'm here because I think you're not everything you should be, and I just want you to know it. And I say, okay.
They were speaking the truth, I guess.
Yeah, right. and I said, well, I still appreciate your coming, because God can use what you're saying. And that's hard to do.
Yeah, sure.
Because it's doing what you know is right, not what you feel like.
Yeah.
But if I were just to indulge my feelings, what edification and how would God be glorified by that?
Yeah.
He wouldn't be. A soft answer turns away wrath. Grievous words stir up strife. If I came back in like kind, it would blow up. I mean, it would just talk about strife being stirred up.
Right.
I mean, I talk to parents about this all the time, and the need that parents have to exercise restraint in how they talk to their children, and how they allow their flaring tempers to find escape from the protective covering of their mind and skin, right? You don't want to let those flares show. You don't want them out. You have to conceal them, control them, contain them, because the minute you get involved in displaying anger, which never works the righteousness of God, and hostility and disdain and disgust with your children, and the minute you get down and you start displaying any kind of ungodly attitude, you basically allow the child off the hook. You allow the child to see, oh, mom's not handling herself right either, and she dares correct me because I'm not handling myself right.
Right.
So you illegitimate your own correction of your children by the obvious guilt of being out of control, being harsh, being unloving, as you correct your children. My dad used to say, he said, "Son, never wrestle with pigs, because two things are going to happen. You're both going to get dirty. And secondly, they'll love it. So don't wrestle with them." Now, he was metaphorically speaking about critics and people who are misbehaving and so on. And that really helped me out to realize, they like it when I get down and get dirty.
Right.
They like that because they're acquitted.
Yeah, it validates the way
Exactly.
their manner of speech.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you don't do that. You don't go there. You don't wrestle with them. A soft answer turns away wrath. Right? So, and the same is true with children. I mean, if your children are misbehaving and you're really irritated with them, there were times that I sent my children to the bathroom, which is where most of our discipline and counseling happen, in a moment of conflict, of course. Moments of non-conflict, we did it anywhere. But in the moments of conflict, it was in the bathroom. Go to the bathroom. I'll be there in a minute. How long are you going to be? I said, as long as I need. As long as I need. I'll be there at the appropriate time. And I'm seething.
Yeah.
Just like, give me that paddle. Give me that paddle. And yet I didn't do that. I sent them to the bathroom, and then I took the time I needed to pray and confess and say, Lord, I am so fleshly. I am wrong. Help me to be your representative. I'm stewarding your authority. Help me to represent you well. Okay. Now you go in and you deal with it, right? Yeah. But you do it under control. You do it in a manner that's not consistent with them, so that they don't see you sinning when you're trying to confront them for their sin. Yeah. And I think that's an important issue. Yeah. And I think that is what love produces. Love for the Lord, and then love for fellow man.
Yep. So. Amen. Thank you.